Considering what happened in the college football playoff top four, it looks like Ohio State and Michigan are both destined to be in there. But the big question is, who is better? Buckeyes or Wolverines? It's time to tackle that question. Great time to subscribe to the channel. Big Ten content every single day. Always crush the like button to spread the word of Big Ten Ted. Buckeyes and Wolverines. It's going to be great to have two Big Ten teams in the college football playoff top four rankings. Now, both of these teams are kind of coming off weird games, I guess. Last Saturday, you look at Ohio State, sleepy Saturday morning, going into afternoon in Evanston, Illinois. Of course, the big-time wins out in the Windy City played a big factor in what happened there. I'll touch on that in just a minute, but you look at Michigan and how they responded in the second half after being behind at halftime against Rutgers. So both had kind of similar. We're in the same ballpark in terms of their situations against not great Big Ten teams on the road. But what I want to look at today, and obviously this past Saturday plays a factor in how both teams responded, and I'll get to that because I like one team and how they responded over the other against not great Big Ten teams on the road. But I want to talk about a full body of work for both Michigan and Ohio State. Now, they've both played Penn State this season, and Michigan had the better game against the Nittany Lions. Michigan completely controlled the line of scrimmage and just ran all over Penn State in that football game, whereas Penn State, I believe, was leading in the fourth quarter against the Ohio State Buckeyes. So that's something there, right? The Penn State game, that edge definitely goes to Michigan. When you look at outside of the Penn State game, I think early on Ohio State took advantage of a Wisconsin team that was maybe still trying to figure out what they were and who they were and what they had, and they really took advantage. I think that win over Wisconsin is going to look better as the season goes on for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But I really like the way Michigan played at Iowa, played a good four-quarter game against the Iowa Hawkeyes on the road. I think that's a big thing. Kinnick Stadium has been a big challenge for Michigan over the years, and how they played against an Iowa team once again. Now, at that time, Iowa was pretty anemic on offense. But as time goes along, I believe that Michigan win is going to look a lot better as we progress through the season. I know we're talking about the right here, right now, who looks better, who is the better team right here, right now. But when you look at end of the season going into the game between the Buckeyes and the Wolverines, Michigan might have a little bit of an edge in terms of strength of schedule because they still have Illinois on their schedule. I know Illinois took a step back with that loss to Michigan State, but when I look at a potential Michigan and Illinois game, Illinois might be able to climb up, by the time in the rankings a little bit by the time that game takes place. So that could be a ranked win for Michigan, whereas Ohio State doesn't really have that on their schedule. Maybe you can combat that if Notre Dame keeps on playing well, that win in the beginning of the season. But right now, the remaining schedule is definitely an advantage for the Michigan Wolverines. Okay, let's talk about this last Saturday. You got an Ohio State team that goes into Northwestern who has been bad. I don't think there's really any way around it. They haven't won on American soil yet this season. And I get the sleepy Saturday morning. You might not be totally ready to play. But when you look at this game, I want to see an Ohio State team when you can't throw the ball, when it's windy conditions. I want to see you come out and be physical right away. Now, I get it. Eventually, they got the running game going. They definitely got more points. They definitely did better in the second half as this game goes along. I mean, this was an Ohio State team that rushed for 200 yards. I'm not sure if that statistic tells the entire story. I think you need to take a look at this game in two halves. You need to take a look at this game in the first half of the football game, because if you run the ball and if you play like you did in the first half of that football game, and you play a good team, you play a Michigan, you play a team in the college football playoff, they're going to be able to take advantage of that. So what happens when a team is able to match up with Ohio State's wide receivers? I even look back to that Iowa game, right, where Iowa was able to match up man-to-man with wide receivers early in that contest. It's crazy because you look at the final score and it's like, this is a boat race. Well, not exactly if you look at the film from beginning to end, because early in that game, Iowa was forcing a lot of Ohio State field goals. And, if you had an offense that was able to take advantage, the other whether it was Iowa or whoever it was, the other team on the other side of the ball in that situation, in that type of game, may have been able to take advantage and may have been able to beat Ohio State. I just look at Michigan and how they've played this year. I know we really haven't seen J.J. McCarthy have to really take the reins, take the ball, and throw Michigan to a victory, just like we haven't really seen Ohio State have to necessarily run the ball to victory. Now, they really had to be physical in week 1 against Notre Dame, but really since then, Ohio State has been very explosive. They've been able to go over the top on some of these teams, and that's kind of what I want to see from each team. Who knows? We might see it in that last game of the season in Columbus, Ohio. I'd like to see Michigan throw the ball a little bit more, but they don't have to. They don't need to. That's their game. Just like maybe Ohio State doesn't need a running game. It's a complement to what Ohio State wants to do throwing the football. But when I look at the eye test and I look at both of these teams and how they fared, I think Michigan played a better game against Penn State. Now, I get it. Ohio State was on the road in that game and Michigan was at home, but I believe Michigan played a much better game and was more dominant against Penn State than Ohio State was. The Buckeyes had to come back in the fourth quarter to come out with the W in that football game. And then this last weekend, you look at Michigan, yeah, they were down at halftime to Rutgers, but you look at the first half, you got a block punt for a touchdown, you got a field goal. Only one offensive touchdown in the first half for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and then Michigan just completely exploded in the second half of this football game. I love the defensive front for Ohio State. The defensive line is really good, but then I think the secondary maybe has the advantage at Michigan. It's not by much. But right now, I'm giving a slight edge to Michigan as maybe the better football team right now. A complete body of work. Ohio State, yes, they're more explosive. But man, this is leading to a pretty damn good football game on the last Saturday of November. Who do you think is better? Is it Michigan? Is it Ohio State? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to Big Ten Ted. I'm Big Ten Ted, and we will see you in the next one.